This is the first time we've ever come this close to finding aliens, right?
There are some small clues that it might be a nitrogen-dominated atmosphere, which, again, is another sort of clue that there could be life there.
Hey, I'm Hannah, and this is What in the World, your podcast for the stories that everyone's talking about from the BBC World Service.
And this episode is brought to you from outer space.
Because we are talking all about space, and I've got our favourite BBC science and space expert, Caroline Steele, here with me. Hey, Caroline.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
So we're talking about this new discovery, which has got people really excited.
Yeah.
We might be one step closer to finding life on other planets. And we're going to get into that in a sec. But first of all, I wanted to ask you, what are your favourite facts about space?
Well, I've got two favourite facts. So one is about the sun. So we think of the sun as being like on a space level, quite close to us, right? But space is just so big that if you were to drive to the sun at 100 kilometres an hour, so like how fast you'd go down a motorway, yeah, it would take you 170 years to get there.
Oh, I did not know that.
If you went in a straight line and we set off now, we would be dead by the time we got there. That's how far away the sun is, and that's actually quite close to us on a sort of space scale. I also love the fact that when you look at the stars, you're essentially looking back in time. So the North Star, which in the Northern Hemisphere we use to navigate and have done for thousands of years, when you look at the North Star, the light that's arriving at your eyes left that star over 400 years ago. So you're essentially like looking back in time and seeing what that star looked like 400 years ago. Exactly, yeah, ancient light. So yeah, I love the fact that space is so much bigger than you can possibly wrap your head around, and looking at stars is like looking back in time.
I love that. There's a fact for day and a fact for night. I want to hear more about this discovery now. What can you tell me about what they found?
So scientists have been looking at an exoplanet, so that's a planet that exists in a solar system that isn't our own, called TRAPPIST-1e. And it's a rocky planet like Earth. It's a similar size to Earth, and it exists in the habitable zone around its sun. And its sun is called TRAPPIST-1. And basically, being in the habitable zone means that if water exists on this planet, it's likely to be liquid rather than frozen or vapour. And that's sort of a good clue that there could be life there. So that's pretty exciting.
And what are the chances that there is water on this planet, that there are the basic building blocks for life?
Well, we don't know about water yet, but scientists have been looking at the potential atmosphere around TRAPPIST-1e, and they've ruled out that it's really full of hydrogen or carbon dioxide, which is a great thing because they're greenhouse gases, which would make the planet really hot. Mm-hmm. And there are some small clues that it might be a nitrogen-dominated atmosphere, which, again, is another sort of clue that there could be life there.
That's the main gas surrounding our planet.
Yeah, exactly. We think of, I think of our planet as being really sort of oxygen dense, but
plants and humans. Yeah. But actually it's about the nitrogen,
yeah,
isn't
something
it?
like 78% of our atmosphere is nitrogen. So nitrogen is also, a really exciting clue for life.
And this is the first time we've ever come this close to finding aliens, right?
Well, we've never found an exoplanet that has nitrogen in its atmosphere. We don't know for sure that TRAPPIST-1e does, but if it turns out that it does, that's the first time we've got that far, which is pretty exciting.
Caroline, I want to stop you there because we're going to bring in two more people who both one day want to work in space exploration. We've got Ximena, who's from Venezuela, and Vanessa, who's from Finland, and they're both members of the Cosmic Girls Foundation, which helps young women who want to work in this area. Hi, welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
So first of all, starting with you, Ximena, what was your reaction to this big discovery?
So when I knew about it, I just started investigating a lot, and it made me so excited to see a kind of an Earth-sized planet, rocky planet, with the possibility of nitrogen and hydrogen in its atmosphere.
Vanessa, what about you? What was your reaction to this discovery?
As someone who loves biology, I find discoveries like TRAPPIST-1e just fascinating because they really make me wonder that life could really exist somewhere else than just here on Earth.
Would you be afraid of life if we did find life outside of planet Earth?
I mean, there is a possibility that aliens are bad they want to harm us, but I want to be hopeful of the possibility that aliens are as curious as humans are. Maybe they're looking at our planet and thinking or investigating about it has an atmosphere, if it has a cycle of daytime and nighttime. And I want to be hopeful of the possibility that aliens are just as curious as humans are.
Vanessa, what about you? Are you scared or curious or both?
I don't think I would have been afraid. I think I would be more curious because, like, just imagine, like, to find a real living, like, aliens somewhere else, that just to know that we're not the only one here on Earth. I think it would be just a wonderful thing.
Vanessa, Ximena, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to pick this up with Caroline. So there are so many films about aliens and about life on other planets. They're such a big part of our imagination. I'm thinking of like the little green aliens that we see, or the scarier ones, or like E.T., Phone Home.
Yeah, I was going to say E.T., yeah.
Caroline, what would life actually look like if it was found outside of planet Earth?
The thing is, we just don't know until we find it. It could look anything from, I don't know, similar to, say, microbes that we have here on Earth, which in some ways is super exciting because that could be the beginning of complex life, or it could be really far evolved. You know, it could be as intelligent as humans or even more intelligent than humans. And the tricky thing is, more complex and less complex life from where we're sitting on Earth using our telescopes will look quite similar. So working out
pretty far away, isn't
yeah,
it?
exactly. So it's going to be quite hard to work out exactly what life looks like.
Is this the closest we've ever come to finding intelligent life before?
It's the closest we've come to finding nitrogen in an exoplanet atmosphere, which is one of the sort of requirements for life to be a possibility. In the past, we've thought we've got really close. So in 2010, there was a planet discovered called Gliese 581G, and some scientists sort of came out saying, oh, I'm really confident there's going to be life on this planet. The media kind of got really excited and said, you know, exoplanet with life found, all this kind of stuff. And when more research was done, it turned out that the planet probably doesn't even exist, let alone have life. So in the past, we've got quite carried away. So I think scientists and journalists like me now are quite cautious with what we say. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of the most exciting examples we've had in a while.
And Caroline, this discovery came thanks to the James Webb Space Telescope. It must be pretty powerful to see signs of life from 40 light years away.
Yeah, one scientist working on it said that it's so powerful it could detect the heat of a bumblebee on the moon. It's so incredibly powerful. Some people have said it's 100 times more powerful than the Hubble Space Telescope that came before. And what's really exciting about it is rather than looking at visible light, which is, you know, the light we see around us in the studio, instead it looks at infrared light, which is given off by smaller, colder bodies. So you and I are giving off infrared light right now. It's basically kind of like heat.
Yeah.
And infrared light can travel much further through space. It's given off by smaller, colder stars, which are really far away. It's the biggest telescope we've ever launched into space. It has this sort of giant mirror that's 6.5 meters across. That's, you know, absolutely massive. It's 2.5 times bigger than the Hubble Space Telescope. And yeah, I'm excited to see what more it finds.
With the information that it has found, what will astronomers do with that?
At the moment, we just have sort of hints about maybe a nitrogen atmosphere. But at this stage, it could end up being that it doesn't even have an atmosphere.
Yeah.
So we need to study TRAPPIST-1e more. The plan is, so at the moment, scientists have looked at it as it passes in front of its star 4 different times. They're going to look at it another 15 times. And I think it's already started now, actually, and the results should be out next year. And that will hopefully confirm whether or not it does have an atmosphere that's full of nitrogen.
Is that detected by infrared?
Yes. So basically, the way it works is the star's giving off infrared light, and that light passes through the atmosphere of the planet, and depending on what gases are in that atmosphere, it changes the light slightly.
Okay.
So the telescope is essentially looking for tiny changes in the light that say, maybe there's some nitrogen there that's causing that change.
So if nitrogen is actually found, what then?
Then my guess is what we'll do is try and see what other gases are in the atmosphere and use models to work out how warm the planet could be and whether or not it's a temperature that basically could support life, or maybe it's too hot or too cold. But fingers crossed it has nitrogen, there's enough of it to keep the planet a decent temperature. And then that's one step closer to finding life.
Do you think we would ever be able to travel to a planet like that or even live on it? And people are developing spacecraft to do just that, right?
Yes. So TRAPPIST-1e is on a sort of like space exoplanet scale, close, round the corner, practically. But it's still about 40 light years away. It would take about 1 million years in our current spacecraft to get there. So realistically, it is too far, probably. I don't want to say for humans ever, but maybe for humans ever. If we wanted to move off Earth onto another planet, I think we're probably better off focusing on planets a bit closer to home, like Mars or something like that. Also, to be honest, if we could get to TRAPPIST-1e, I don't think I'd want to live there because it's tidally locked, which basically means one side of the planet always faces the sun and the other side always faces away. So you either have to pick to live in constant daylight or constant nighttime.
Which would you choose?
Oh, I think I'd go constant nighttime.
Well, I'm constant daytime.
Oh, would you?
Why would you want to live in constant darkness?
Because I think having the sun all day, I would never sleep. I don't know. I think
Get
I'd
yourself
rather...
an eye mask, Caroline. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Thanks for having me on.
So confirming life on planets is still a while off, but next time you have a look up at the stars, you might want to think about whether something up there might be looking right back at you. I'm Hannah. This is What in the World from the BBC World Service. And if you've liked this episode, please do like, share, subscribe. We have got loads more on the BBC World Service YouTube channel and wherever you get your BBC podcasts. We'll see you next time.